All right. So for anyone that does not know Meghan or has not read up on Meghan, Meghan is the co-founder and former CEO of Conscious Company Media, the nation's leading media company dedicated to purpose-driven businesses and social enterprises. The company's flagship product, Conscious Company Magazine, was the first nationally distributed print publication in the US to focus exclusively on sustainable and conscious business practices. Meghan is also the founder of World Changing Women, a national event series for female purpose-driven business leaders, as well as being the creator and host of the World Changing Women's podcast, which tells the stories of female business leaders and founders making a positive impact on the world. You live in Boulder with your wonderful husband, Scott, your new son, Jack, and your beloved rescue mat, Chloe. So Meghan, does that all sound right? Are there
Yes,
updates?
yes, that sounds accurate. No particular updates to speak of beyond the fact that I just left Conscious Company in March. So I am currently dreaming and scheming and cooking up my next multiple ventures because I can't help myself.
I love it. So I'm fascinated to hear what started really your entrepreneurial journey. So first with Conscious Company Media, and then how has it evolved over time, and what has brought you to where you're at today?
Yeah. Started the entrepreneurial journey. So I did my MBA with a focus on sustainability and came out of my program just like didn't know what I wanted to do, but knew that I wanted to help the world and knew that business was the vehicle at that time that I was like, this is the most effective thing in the world that we could possibly do to create systemic change. So I floated around for a little bit and actually worked in the publishing industry for 5 whole months, and learned enough to put together a magazine. And then I got fired. And on the same night that I got fired from that job, I was having pizza with a friend in Boulder, Colorado. She was doing her MBA with focus on sustainability. And she asked me the question, why doesn't a print magazine about sustainable business exist? So that happened at like 6 p.m. on a Friday. At 1 a.m., I got fired over email. I woke up on a Saturday morning and was like, well, I've been fired. I don't have a job. I feel unemployable. I don't know what to do. I should probably start a business, and not only a business, one in the print publishing space, which is just the worst. I don't recommend anyone go into it. So in terms of how the entrepreneurial journey has evolved, we got this print publication to market. We got picked up by every Whole Foods market in the United States with our first issue. We like churned through the first year, did everything that you typically do as an entrepreneur, friends and family rounds, burned through all our cash, crowdfunding, and quickly realized that we had to pivot and diversify revenue streams, which best practices in the media industry says that you need to go into events. And so we started going into events and kind of did it through the lens of like, what should I do? So we launched the Conscious Company Leaders Forum, which was an event that we did for 4 years, where we brought together leaders of conscious businesses and talked about conscious business. And then about halfway through, I had one of my listen to your heart moments and realized that the place that I really, really wanted to play and that I was really passionate about was female entrepreneurship. And so had the crazy harebrained idea to launch World Changing Women, which was under the Conscious Company brand, but its own separate entity. And so all of a sudden we had World Changing Women and Conscious Company and Leaders Forum and magazine and diversified revenue streams all over the place, which is its own bit. And then late last year, I just started having the itch that I wanted to start focusing to bring my gaze up after 6 full years of running Conscious Company and World Changing Women to see what might be calling, and am working on some fun new projects. So I have been babbling for a long time. That is my entrepreneurial journey.
I love it. And it makes a lot of sense.
Okay, cool.
Actually, my first question is related to your story. How in the world did you get into all of Whole Foods within your first launch? That's amazing.
Well, Christina, I'll call it strategic thinking, but I invited John Mackey, the founder of Whole Foods, to be on the cover of the first issue of the magazine. And somehow he said yes, which like I literally sent him a cold email like, "Hi John, I'm Megan. I'm 29 and I'm launching a print magazine and I promise it's going to be great. Do you want to be on the cover?" And a month later he got back to me and was like, "Sure." And that you have like these points on your entrepreneurial journey that define your life. And John Mackey saying yes to being on the cover of the magazine, it made it so Whole Foods at the time was broken out into 11 different regions, and you could get picked up by any one of the 11 regions. And I was like, no regional manager who's buying their media is going to look at a magazine with John Mackey on the cover and say, no, we don't want to hold this magazine. So they all said yes. And big, big bump. First issue, we were in all Whole Foods. So I don't know what teachable moment that has. Some people, my husband he says I have like a devious mind, but I call it strategy.
Yeah, that's a great strategy. I mean, that's how you're here today. We like definitely cold emailed you. So thank you for responding.
Yay!
We really appreciate it. Everyone in FYSO appreciates it. So, that is amazing. And I love that, cold emailing can work. And if you try, I mean, look at the amazing result of that.
To that point, I mean, I am the queen of just zero shame, and I wasn't when I started, but now I am. And the worst people can say is no. We had 20 people on our original list that we wanted to feature in the magazine. We sleuthed the internet and somehow discovered their email addresses. We sent emails to all 20 of them, and 18 of them said yes, and we're in that first issue of the magazine. Like, you have no idea what people will say yes to unless you ask. And so you already, they're definitely gonna, it's definitely not gonna happen if you don't ask. And the worst that they can say is no. So I'm a big fan of zero shame as an entrepreneur. It's like kind of a criteria.
It makes sense. Although granted, when I was starting out a few years ago, I feel like I had a lot of shame, and and now it kind of has dissipated. I don't care anymore. Like, whatever. I don't care if you like me anymore. All right. What makes someone a conscious leader?
This is such a good question. So one of the things that I've been playing around with is creating some courses. And I had literally just I created a slide yesterday about what is a conscious leader. And here's what I wrote down. I wrote, it's someone who walks the talk. This is someone who keeps commitments and stays true to their values and models those values openly. It's someone with heightened emotional intelligence and who has done the interpersonal work to be able to develop their own emotional intelligence. Someone who has the ability to consciously respond, not simply react. And so there's a wonderful quote about in the space, after a stimulus, there's a space, and consciousness is being able to respond and not react and actually taking that pause. It's someone who is aware of their actions. And another thing that I wrote down was it's someone who's a learner, not a knower. And this is when I think about this framework, it's someone who's humble enough to know that they don't know what they don't know and is willing to learn from others rather than coming in feeling like they have all the answers. So those were things that I had written down just for this course that I'm developing. And I had written down examples of conscious leaders that I've met on my journey who I just think are the creme de la creme. Justin Rosenstein, the co-CEO of Asana, is unbelievable. Eileen Fisher, and Kevin Rutherford of the CEO of Noon Hydration Tablets, who is the former CEO of Myers Soap, were three examples that I had of just like people who've done the work and who you can just tell they have this like intangible quality.
Eileen Fisher. I'm like a fangirl.
Yeah,
I am a fangirl. All right. So, the World Changing Women podcast. Why did you decide on a podcast, and what have been some of the biggest lessons that you've had and taken away from more than 41 interviews with World Changing Women?
Yeah, so I had the idea for the podcast because we had this wonderful World Changing Women Summit, which in order for us to be a sustainable company, the ticket price on that was fairly expensive. It was, over $1,000 to attend this event. And we had scholarships and we were working on ways to democratize access to this event, but for economic reasons, for reasons of various resources, time, money, whatever they might be, people couldn't attend the event. Not nearly as many people as wanted to. And so we'd always get these notes month after month throughout the year of people who are saying, you guys are doing fantastic work there, and interviews, are you recording it? And I was like, no, we're not. I don't know what we're doing. And so the idea for World Changing Women podcast was born, which was there are myriad podcasts out there that are interviewing wonderful, successful male founders, and there's very few that are focusing on female founders. Specifically, our like niche within a niche was female founders of conscious businesses, and so that was what we decided that we would focus our interview series on. And the last part of the question was, what have I learned from 41 interviews? I think like the themes and the things that I've seen consistently across the board is just this like pervasive storytelling around either times when people didn't listen to their gut or when they did listen to their gut. And that being like one of the most important things that you can do as an entrepreneur is self-care, in terms of taking the time to slow down, to get out of your business enough to be out of the weeds so that you can take a minute to look up and like look at the horizon a little bit. And in that space, those like quiet times, and whether for me it's like every night I take a walk with my baby and my dog. We go on like an hour-long walk. And it's in that space of quiet and like getting away from the business that you often hear these ideas, or you have these like feelings, or whether it's about a person, or you have an idea for your next line, or you have whatever it might be. The most consistent thing that came up on the podcast was women saying, because I listened to my gut, I have succeeded in these different ways, or the biggest mistakes that I have made are the times when I didn't listen to that like voice that was telling me to do something. Jane Werwand, the founder of Dermalogica, she said that she was it's I think a 33-year-old business. And she said like the first year she didn't listen to herself because she didn't trust herself and was under the assumption that other people knew so much better because she was just a young entrepreneur. And then she said from then on, she listened to her gut. And even when she would like unabashedly have people in her face telling her it was the wrong decision to make. And fast forward 33 years, she's the chief visionary of Dermalogica, which got acquired by Unilever last year. And she's doing real well. But she was the queen of just saying, listen to your gut, listen to your gut, listen to your gut. So I would say that's kind of the number one. Well, those are like kind of number one and two, like listen to your gut, but also make the time with self-care. Like your business is not your identity, period. You have to extricate yourself from your business in some way, and like every day find that meaningful moment to not be your business and to get away from it and draw some boundaries.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. I love those pieces of advice, and thank you for sharing them, because having interviewed so many amazing women, it's fascinating to hear that those are the trends, because I too have my MBA, and and MBA is so much about logic and reason, and then yet your gut and your intuition are such like intangibles. And yet, I mean, in my business as well, hands down, going with my gut has always played out well. And anytime I ignored it, it ended up hurting a lot. And it was often painful for months. And I was like, why? My gut told me not to do this. I totally hear that. And the self-care piece. Whew, it's no joke. All right. So I'm gonna ask one last question, and then I'm gonna turn it over to the group to see if they have any questions. What advice, and this is kind of a broader one, what advice do you have for mission-driven entrepreneurs that are trying to balance purpose and profit?
Yeah, they're like two sides of the same coin, and I feel like that it's like fairly obvious pieces of advice that also get lost. So the first is very, very clearly articulate what your purpose is. And you might think that, like we're selling products that are going to be supporting women in Haiti. Like get very clear about the why of what you're doing. We, for the first 4 years of running Conscious Company, we weren't clear about it. We were like, we're telling stories and there's stories that needed to be told, and we're amplifying the voices of people, and we're moving the needle. And, we had all these kind of like buzzwordy catchphrases of what we thought we were doing. But we weren't measuring ourselves against that purpose. We didn't have it clearly articulated. We didn't have the purpose articulated, and we didn't have our values articulated. And we had this idea, I think, that because we were a social enterprise and we were doing good in the world, that we didn't necessarily need to codify those and we didn't need to live by them. And it was to our detriment. We had massive amounts of internal turmoil. We were working ourselves to the bone. All sorts of crazy bad stuff that happened. We got acquired in December of 2017. And my original co-founder got bought out and moved on, and our other business partner got bought out and moved on, and they retained me on as CEO. And so in January 2018, I had this opportunity to just hit a complete reset on the company. And I could see at that point, like, that the purpose and the values part wasn't there, even though we were like literally the authority in the space on conscious business. I would not say that we had been one the entire time that we had existed as a business ourselves. So we brought in an incredible consultant, a wonderful man named Nathan Havey of Thrive Consulting Group. He spent like 2 days with us, and I brought everyone from the team in, because this was not work that I should do alone as a CEO and then be like, this is what our purpose and values are. I brought everyone in from the team and said, let's all do this work together. So we articulated a purpose as a company, which was to redefine success in business and service of all life. And that was just like, boom, that's what we do. If any action we take as a company does not serve that higher purpose, we don't do it. And then we articulated 5 core values that we just lived by. And we ended up incorporating, holy crap, I'm going on forever, but I feel like this is really important information. So we ended up incorporating in our meetings, our weekly meetings. So every Monday morning we had an all hands, and on Monday at the end of the meeting, we carved out 15 minutes, and each person had we talked about our own either personal values or personal purpose that we had. And at the end of the meeting, we talked about a high low. So either what was something that happened in the last week that was just like, I crushed it on my personal purpose, or I really lived my values in this way, or a low in terms of like, I didn't show up the way that I wanted to. Like, one of my values is love, and holy crap, I blew up at my mom this weekend and it was terrible. And we shared like from the heart that level of transparency around our values and our purpose as individual human beings on our team. And then on Friday, we did the exact same exercise, but going up to the company's core purpose and the company's core values. So what are ways in which you showed up this week that, you just felt like I really embodied the team's core values this week? Or what were ways that I showed up that like, I really didn't? Like, one of our values as this team was treat people beautifully. And we'd have like, our customer service reps be like, this woman was like such a bitch to me on email and I did not treat her beautifully. And we'd like talk about that as a team and like what maybe she could have done better too. But we never shamed people. Like, that was the point of the thing, was to have a brave space where you can come and share that like you didn't own up to the company values. I'm naming it, I'm owning it, and I will do better next time. And then if we started seeing patterns where like someone was not doing stuff, week after week, month after 3 months, we kind of call it out a little bit and I'd have a private conversation with that person. I don't know what the hell I was talking about. Woo! Purpose, profit. There we go. I'm going back. I promise, guys. Profit. So there's the purpose and the value side. So like, clearly articulate, live it, breathe it. We make sure it's like baked into everything that you do, and then check in with your team so that they know and bring them in on that process. Profit. Ha! Just because you are a social enterprise does not mean you will be financially successful and people will just flock to your company and give you all the money. If the business model isn't there, you will not survive as a company. And if you don't survive as a company, you will not be able to fulfill on the social mission that you have. So like revenue, business model, like being meticulous about it, actually being stringent about it, they are two sides of the same coin. They cannot be extricated from each other. The thing I did find though was the more we focused on our purpose, the more we lived our values, the more that went hand in hand with us making more profit. But like anytime, it's like you have to like, you're keeping your eye on both simultaneously all the time. And if you go to one, if you look at profit to the detriment of purpose, things will start crumbling over here. And if you are just focused on purpose and values to the detriment of, or being negligent of your profit, this side will crumble over here. And so it's like this beautiful dance. And I literally had a meeting once a week for myself on my calendar, that 30 minutes I spent on like purpose and values, and 30 minutes I spent on like looking at our books and our revenue and our profit, and figuring out what was going on with and tinkering with the business model.
That is so amazing. Because number one, like, we are after this having everyone define their purpose in ways they want to make an impact.
Good.
And then the point of this program is to figure your shit out and ideally figure out whether your business model is sustainable. So yes. And an additional thank you too for the tangible recommendations. Like, I have never heard of anyone doing Monday meetings about your personal purpose and values, as well as Friday meetings. It's amazing. All right, it's question time, and it looks like Chloe has a question. And Chloe, correct me if I get this wrong. Would you say that the population often chooses the companies whose values or morals they align with? Or do you feel like purchases are driven by selfishness facilitated by modern marketing? Like, how prevalent, I like this, how prevalent are conscious buyers? It's a great question.
Well, Chloe, this is timely stuff here. Hold please. I literally was just putting together this entire course about conscious business yesterday, and have some wonderful statistics. I will say the statistics after I say my anecdotal response to that, which is I truly believe that the trend is going up and up and up, and people want to support companies that align with their values. Full stop, period. I do coaching with female founders, and I had a young female founder today who has this incredible new company, and she was talking about how to respond to the unbelievable situation that our country is currently facing, with police brutality and systemic racism and white supremacy being pervasive in everything that we do. And she just said, like, I'm scared to say anything. I want to stand up. And I said to her, and I'm going all over the place, but this is from Rose Marcario, CEO of Patagonia. After I interviewed her, she said to me something I will never forget. She said, if you don't stand for anything, you stand for nothing. And consumers these days will not be loyal to companies that stand for nothing. And that was like this, okay, like, you have to put your heart on your sleeve. You have to do this. And so the customer loyalty piece, I think, is huge. Just like various little data points that I have on this that I literally was just writing down. Cone Communications Global Report reports that 93% of adults surveyed worldwide demonstrate more trust and loyalty for an organization that is socially responsible, and 91% are likely to switch from a mainstream brand to the more conscious option, even if that means a higher price. That's not like 30%. That's 93% of adults surveyed worldwide are saying that this is important to them. The other statistic that I love to bring in is, if anybody hasn't read Raj Sisodia's book, Firms of Endearment, it's this incredible book where he essentially surveys companies that people love. Like, when you think of the companies that you love, and these aren't like, companies that you often buy from. These are companies that you are like, I will tell my friend to go buy from this company because I feel so good about them. Like companies like that for me are Athleta. They're a certified B Corp, women led. They're unbelievable. Eileen Fisher, because I know her and I love her and I think she's just fabulous. All of these things. I'm like loyal to a fault. Southwest Airlines, like I'll pay over $100 more for a ticket on Southwest Airlines because of the way that I feel and the way that I know they treat their employees. So these companies, so he looked at firms of endearment, companies that people feel this loyalty to, and they were like Costco, Whole Foods, Wegmans Market, Southwest Airlines was an example. So he looked at all of these, and what he discovered was, of course, that they are all values-based companies. So then he looked at their stock market performance over the same period of time that he had looked at the S&P 500, and these firms of endearment had outperformed the S&P 500 by 14 to 1. That is 1,400% over the typical S&P 500 because their values aligned. So it just like blows my mind. Read Firms of Endearment or anything by Raj Sisodia. He's written like 15 books at this point. He's like this Yoda guru, conscious businessman. He's wonderful.
I love it. I know we're almost out of time, but still, does anyone else have one more quick question? Just in case.
I'll put these statistics in here for you guys.
No? Anyone?
Oh, wait. No, wait.
Okay.
I have a question. Sorry.
Okay.
I'm coming off from mute. I'm curious about like the course that you're working on. Who is it for? And when is it going to be available?
Oh my God. It is for me. I am creating my own situation here under my team. We're calling it MFD Ventures, Meghan French Dunbar Ventures, because we don't know what else to call it. But I will be teaching my own courses. So I'm gonna, July 1st, be launching a suite of online courses to teach people. One is Conscious Business 101. We'll be teaching people how do you start a conscious business. So like soup to nuts, like how do you go from idea to like, I have a product to sell on the shelf. And that looks like everything from what are your banking practices? What should you incorporate as like all the things that you should take into consideration to lay the foundation for being a truly conscious business when you start. We're launching a new class called the Purposeful Life Lab to help people identify what their purpose is as a human being and incorporate that purpose into their life plan for the next 5 years. And we're launching another course about authentic leadership. And so we're doing all of these. And then I'm also launching another venture with 3 co-founders who I've met along my journey, Ania Williams of Black and Brown Founders, Vashon Huff, and Jocelyn McDougall. We're launching something called the Firefly Alliance, and we are going to be training female leaders about systemic racism, white privilege, all of the skills that female leaders really need in order to become leaders of the future. So come July 1st, I feel like I have like albums dropping. I don't know what they are. I have companies dropping.
I'm totally into this for that hour.
But yes, yeah, you can go. Don't go there right now. Right now is like the worst website you've ever seen. But if you go to meghanfrenchdunbar.com on July 1st, I'm apparently putting up an Instagram page, which like makes me want to die because I hate social media. But my team is forcing me to put up the social media situation. So you will be able to follow me on the Insta to take a look at what I've got going on. Apparently they're launching my page next week. And you can also follow me on Twitter. It's at megfrenchdunbar.com, and I'll be announcing all this stuff on there.
Yeah.
But you guys are like literally the first humans outside of my friends and family that know about this. So I don't know.
Yay. Okay, so. Okay. Jill asked, what is Delta A? Did I get that right, Jill?
Yeah. Delta A is Delta Awesome, which is a wonderful consulting firm in Boulder that was launched by a couple friends of mine. And they are, when I say that I do coaching for female founders, I do that through them. And so I get paired up with a female founder and I work with her on a weekly basis and then do quarterly strategic planning with her to just help her kind of get from startup stage to stable stage as a company. And so, yeah, do a little consulting, launching some companies. I don't know. My poor husband.
Yes. I love it. Okay, we do have one more question. What were some of the changes you made to your business, i.e. things you stopped after redefining your company purpose?
After redefining a company purpose. So that the like weekly practices was something that like very clearly changed. It was really helpful for us when we one of the things, if you haven't picked this up by now, I get very excited about bright, shiny objects, and bright, shiny objects for me are new ventures. If you give me a month alone, which is like literally just happened, I'm like launching multiple businesses and I have a podcast and wait, I have a book idea and I'm just like all over the place. And so it's like, it can be a beautiful quality for a CEO, and it can also be a really distracting, terrible quality for a CEO, because you are in, your meetings on a weekly basis and you're throwing out ideas and you don't realize that your team is looking to you to model behavior all of the time, all of the time, all the time. And they take everything you say so seriously. And so when you're like me and it's like, squirrel, 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 this helped my team to be able to have a lens through which we could look at the ideas that I had and be like, okay, is this helping further our purpose as a company to redefine success and redefine success in business and service of all life? And so that was, when I had the idea for the World Changing Women Summit, they were like, yes, this is like, female leaders really need to come together right now. Female entrepreneurs really need to get together. And I had the idea for the World Changing Women podcast, same thing. And so it gave us that lens to be able to, I'm not thinking of the correct word here, but not process, but really, well, it's just gone. Think through, not the most articulate words that you've ever heard, but it gave us a lens to be able to really think through why we are doing what we are doing. And so we would talk about that as an executive team. We also worked, I'd say we didn't get as far as I would have liked to, on figuring out like, what does an impact metric look like for redefining success in business and service of all life. And on a quarterly basis at our strategic planning sessions, we'd actually like talk about that as a team of like, how do we feel like number of entrepreneurs that have reached out to us and said that they've done something different, or number of people who reach out to us to tell us that they've like quit their company because they're not living up to their values. So it gave us a little bit of that. And I don't know if you can tell, but the sun just came out from behind the clouds and I'm illuminating, but I also can't really see my computer screen. I could probably move, but wow. Sorry.
It's glowing.
It's been a long day.
Well,
anything else?
Actually hilarious. Oh, I mean, it's just the light shining down on you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Honestly, I don't want to speak for everyone, so I'm going to let you all just like go off mute and say your own thank yous. But at least from my perspective, cannot thank you enough for coming on here and sharing a bit of your story and answering our questions and all of the work that you do to help world-changing leaders and more specifically female founders. And just thank you. And it sounds like, yeah, good luck on July 1st.
Thank you.
Anyone else
Thank you all. Yeah, and feel free to reach out to me. There's on MeghanFrenchDunbar.com, there's a little contact form. You can send me anything. That's how Christina found me. So send me a note if you guys have any questions or need mentorship or inspiration or just to run some ideas by me. I'm always happy to jump on the phone. So good luck with everything.
Thank you.